So you're 17 years old. You just graduated, but you can't read. But that's another story. But now you're thinking about the next steps that life is going to take you. In front of you is a document that could change your life's whole trajectory. And not just your life, and even to a certain extent, your community. Now, I'm not talking about the next kid with the decent jump shot signing her NIL deal. I am talking about signing a loan agreement that's bigger than your family's mortgage. And in all the doing of this, nobody blinks. Then 4 years later, you got a cap, you got a gown, and a degree that somehow qualifies you for $45,000 a year and a $700 a month student loan bill. Who cares if you have to live, drive to where you work so that you can pay off the student loan debt or even have a family? Pay your fucking bills. Sounds inviting, doesn't it? No wonder young black men, especially, are opting out of seeing college as a viable solution to future success. Because if this is the financial road ahead of them, in a system that already prepares them for criminalization by color and gender, well, that is not education. That is economic capture. As we finish out the spring breaks and get back to finishing the semesters, I thought it was necessary to take a look at what some of these kids are facing. I mean, the modern college system doesn't feel as much like a ladder up as it does like a treadmill in some respects. And today we're going to break down how it became a trap and what we can do about it. This is Society Breakdown. Peace, and blessings. What's good? This is your boy, Seven Inglewood's on right now in your zone. And this is another episode of the Blackman Show Presents Society Breakdown. And today we are breaking down the three big questions related to college and student loan debt. For one, how did college go from an opportunity to a lifetime debt trap? Two, who really benefits from the current student loan system? And three, are there any real alternatives or are we just stuck in this model? So first things up, how did college become a lifetime debt trap? Well, first of all, there was like a historical shift, inflation, if you will. So basically in 1980, public college tuition averaged about $800 a year and about $3,200 a year for private schools. Fast forward that to 2024, when that number is closer to $11,000 a year in state, $32,000 a year if you're out of state, and over $40,000 a year for private institutions. But have wages kept up with that increase? I mean, because that would be great. You know, hey, back in the day, you know, eggs only cost 8 cents and now they cost 80 cents. So, okay, cool. Back then I made $12 an hour. Now I make $120 an hour. Like shouldn't that be the way that it doesn't go. Moving on. Now, I know that we've all probably heard those inflated promises too, right? Go to college, get a good job, become a millionaire, right? Take over the world. Like that was the mantra. But we have seen, those of us who have actually been out there, like we've seen the degrees became common while the job markets just didn't grow proportionally. So people that graduated with that underwater basket weaving degree may have found it a little difficult to not end up in somebody's Amazon warehouse, which is very different, I'm sure, from what these young recent grads have experienced, right?
Okay, my name is Hayami. My concentration is spiritual music. My name is Elio, and I concentrated in Black storytelling.
But basically stated, underemployment of grads is now a norm, not an exception. And it doesn't seem that trend is ending anytime soon. Now, I mean, I was looking at a recent report that said between the years of 2020 and 2022 that actually underemployment had gone down from 42% to 41%. Why is it at 40 anything percent? You see what I'm saying? And just for those of y'all who don't know, underemployment basically means it's work that typically doesn't require a bachelor's degree. And that is something that this MBA holding college grad who was working days and nights in job with other non-degree holders is very familiar. And then you've got predatory lending. Now, I've already talked about how you got teenagers who are making lifetime decisions, lifetime financial decisions based on limited information with a limited range of thinking and understanding at that time. The prefrontal cortex ain't even formed out completely yet, and they still sitting there trying to figure out what FAFSA is. You know what I'm saying? Like that, a whole different situation, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, federal loans are easy to get, and with little transparency on compound interest, deferment traps, or forgiveness timelines. And I can't believe that they wouldn't inform a well-adjusted 17-year-old ready to make lifetime financial commitments about this. I mean, like, think about it. They would rather give tens of thousands of dollars to a know-nothing 17-year-old than they would to a 21-year-old who has a little bit of experience who wants to open up a small business. Like, think about that. Think about that. You're too informed, you know too much, and now you got to show me how you're going to pay this money back. How you going to pay this $3,000, the $3,000 to $5,000 back in the small business loan? How you going to pay that back in the next year or two? Show me. You have to show me. Show me all the ways that you're going to do it. Prove to me that you're worthy of this money.
Your college, your high school grade doesn't know anything and you're going to college, maybe, and you graduated high school with a 2.3 GPA? Yeah. How's $30,000 sound?
That is just wild to me. And then you got there's some borrowers that deal with private loans, which have fewer protections, higher interest rates, and unforgiving repayment schedules. And to be quite fair, I don't know why this isn't a required class to graduate for high schoolers. But if society has learned anything from your boy Seven this far, y'all have learned that people, and that can be regular Joes just like you and me, corporations, governments, and all their myriad leanings and meanings, but people love to benefit from your laziness or your ignorance. And I can't think of a much better way to establish your loan shark business. I'm sorry. I mean your student loan organization with years and years of income than to use the old Aristotle ploy of getting them while they are young. And quick note, I used to think that was attributed to Sigmund Freud, but I actually had to change that when I looked it up. Thank you, college degree. But now, who really benefits from these systems, right? You got companies like Navient and Mokila who are raking in billions in interest payments and loan servicing fees. They hit your pockets in ways that your baby mama only wished that she could. And they want to make sure that you have fulfilled your financial commitments. I mean, you can't afford food? That's just part of the business plan. And don't forget, even paused loans still generate administrative revenue. So for those of you who think that just because you have your loan in deferment or something like that, it's still accruing interest and you still have to pay all of that, all of it. And don't think the universities are exempt. They also benefit from your ignorance and from your immense college debt. Look, more money available for them means more tuition inflation. And that leads to admin bloat. I mean, look, colleges nowadays are spending more money on administrators than they are on the educators. I mean, you got faculty and your students are the actual reason that the college is even there. But they pay more for the admins and staff. Think about that, than for the actual students or the actual reasoning that you're there in the first place. That could kind of be a problem. It could be a problem. I'm just saying. And then you've got the government whose student debt portfolio is $1.7 trillion. Forgiveness programs are so complicated that most people never qualify. So just when you think that you're on the brink of clearing out tens of thousands in student loans, gotcha, bitch, they let you know that your video game quest has a whole new level, paying your student loans with your retirement money. But seriously, and don't think that they're above that. But seriously, if you're not careful, there are tons of scams, bad actors, and even legit government programs with speculative fine print that could lead you in the wrong direction if you're not diligent. But you're a college grad, so you've got it all figured out, right? And then you've got job market gatekeeping, right? Many jobs require degrees, but not because of skills, but to filter out the bad applicants. You know, keep the riffraff. at bay. So now the degree is basically the security guy keeping you out of club job interview. And what does that do? Keeps the working class in debt cycles while rewarding degree holders with a slight privilege, but rarely any wealth. Like, look, bosses, and I've said this tons of times before, bosses will never pay you enough to live next door to them. I mean, regardless of how much you get paid. Now, look, I'm sure there are some exceptions, some anecdotal stories of the Jim and Craig, and they live right next to each other, and Jim is Craig's boss, and everyone's blah, blah. Yeah, I'm sure. But in general, on average, that ain't happening. And in that, you're hopefully able to see the class war that's basically created, right? So you got bosses at the boss level who are not going to pay the workers at the worker level enough to live on to get to their level, but the workers are the ones who also have college degrees. They are just above or just able to slightly look down their nose at the unskilled labor. And the unskilled labor, like just people who like work at security jobs, cashiers, stuff like that. And no diss to any of them. I'm not saying that you're not good at things. I'm just saying they call that unskilled labor. So just to put it out there. Now, what are some real alternatives that we can look at? Like, I would actually encourage starting with community colleges and trade schools. I mean, they're often overlooked, but they offer a decent ROI, especially if you're going for areas like tech, healthcare, electrical work, HVAC, construction, anything like that. So like, I have a cousin who's the same age as I, and he and I went different paths when it came to education and all that, right? And so I went the path of, education, getting my degree and doing that thing, student loans. Had a scholarship too, but it wasn't enough, so I also had to take out student loans and all that. And he went the electrical apprentice route. Well, by the time we were 19, he had an apartment, a car, and was living life. And me, I'm coming home from college on summer break, saying, "Can you give me a ride? Can you take me here? Hey, mama, can I do this?" He is living life, and I'm still basically under my parents' wing. So yeah, that was a whole different dynamic when you think about it, and think about how quickly you can get life started when you go to some of these trade schools and you learn some of these trades and really get into it. And then you've got certification programs and micro credentials. Like, look, if you're someone who has a good idea of what you're wanting to do and you are ready now to get into the job market now, and it doesn't involve hair of any kind. And I don't care if it's lashes, brows, bikini hairline, mine, hers, or the hair that she borrowed, no hair, then you might want to get into tech, marketing, data, UX, or UI design fields. I mean, because they often favor portfolios and certifications over degrees nowadays. So you can be studying for 4 to 12 months, depending on the program. Some of them, I guess, average about 6. But you could be well slated to start in your field much quicker than somebody with a 4-year degree, with some obvious limitations. Now, I'm not sponsored at all, but you can find out more of some of these STEAM positions, certifications, and the like on platforms like Coursera, Google Career Certificates, Skillshare, and etc. Just think of it like this. If you are really trying to get into club job interview, then having a certificate is the equivalent of knowing somebody who works at the club, so they can get you in the door at a discount, but it's still up to you to get yourself anywhere after that. Now, I've already spoken about this a little bit, but so with some of those trades have apprenticeships, and then there are also employer-funded education opportunities as well. So there are programs out there that will pay you to learn. You dig? So instead of the other way around, you can go to companies like, well, you could have gone to companies like Amazon, Walmart, and Target, all DEI and related protests notwithstanding, but you could have gone to them to get some sort of financial or educational help, and help them. They would help you with some of your opportunities. I mean, with the end of the Department of Education, many of these corporations have pulled back on some of their investments into the future workforce. But, suddenly they're starting to realize that they still need, people. So perhaps with their Uno reverse, now these programs still exist where they offer education stipends or full tuition reimbursement in some cases. So if you work for a company of any repute, it couldn't hurt to at least ask them if they offer any sort of tuition reimbursement or will pay for a class or something like that if you take it online. I mean, it couldn't hurt to ask. You may be surprised at what the answer is.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And there are debt-free models that exist. Not nearly as prevalent, but they exist, right? So, unlike the U.S. and our poor education system to the point where we think that privatization is the answer, several other countries offer tuition-free or heavily subsidized education. I'm just saying, it would not be a bad idea to get your PhD in Tijuana in some cases. I'm just saying. And then you've got some U.S. states that are experimenting with tuition-free community college, like in Tennessee, where they have the Tennessee Promise program or scholarship, which offers 2-year scholarships to those who are eligible for their program, which honestly isn't too bad of an idea. I just wish more states were to employ something like that. But with that in mind, and then you're thinking about our current financial, political, and educational status as a nation right now, good luck. So we got a couple takeaways, right? First of all, question every institution that benefits when you are to stay indebted. You don't want to let these people live in your pockets, whoever they are. If you haven't picked that up from what I've been putting down in these society breakdown episodes, then you are missing the whole point of what we're talking about here. Keep from paying the idiot tax. We got to stop. We got to stop from doing that. You know what I'm saying? To that end, be mindful of new concepts that you don't recognize. Seek help. And if you are helping a teen to traverse the trail to college, break it down for them the way that you would have wanted it broken down to you. But definitely don't keep the information to yourself. I'm talking to you, Mr. Lyles, and then we can normalize alternate education routes. Look, education doesn't have to be necessarily expensive, and it definitely doesn't have to mean an expensive degree. Sometimes the traditional way doesn't work for everybody. And lastly, push for better financial literacy in high schools and communities. That way we can better equip our kids for their financial futures and better protect them from having to pay the idiot tax. You knew it was coming. But I'll just leave y'all with my last word, right? Education is supposed to open doors, but for too many, it opens a lifetime of bills. And if the system was really built for us, why is it trapping us on the way in? You had to close the door that hard? But I'll ask y'all this. Have you had to deal with student loans, or did you just avoid them altogether to get to your education? Are you educated? And if so, how did you get to that point? What sort of advice would you give to a 17-year-old today? And what sort of advice would you give to yourself if you could go back and be like, hey, wait, before you sign a dotted line? And lastly, to my people who also have a degree. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Greg, and you, Ian. But if you also had to, so you got the degree, but you also had to spend some time being underemployed at any time, do you regret it? Like, do you regret having the degree and then being underemployed for whatever amount of time that was, and then having to kind of build yourself back and all that? Do you regret do you regret the fact that you even went through all that to end up next to somebody who didn't have to go through none of that, and you like, man, we're in the same boat, and I got 4 years of debt to go with that. Like, do you regret that? Just curious. But anyway, that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another episode of The Blackman Show Presents Society Breakdown, and I have been your boy 7 Blackman. Be sure to take care of each other and yourselves especially, and I will see you in the next one. Peace, and I'm out.